Hi everybody. So welcome back to C# app development. So this is kind of an offshoot, sort of auxiliary set of videos that are for people who only have access to MacBooks or anything with the Mac operating system on it. So traditionally, the way the class is taught, if you don't have access to a PC, we always have the Majors Lab, but obviously right now no one can use the Majors Lab. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through in a really quick kind of way how to set up a project in Visual Studio for Mac that will allow you to complete assignments number 4 and kind of set you up for assignment number 5. There'll be a follow-up video about how to use MongoDB in Mac or Visual Studio for Mac, which will help you do assignment number 5. Which is all about persistence. So there's basically a little bit of exposition that's required in order to do this. So basically what happens is in order to run a .NET Framework application on your machine, you have to have what's called IIS. That is a sort of web server that comes packaged with Windows. It's a Windows feature. And if you do not have that Windows feature, which you obviously don't if you're just on a Mac, you will not have the ability to run a .NET Framework version of an API app. What you can do is you can use a .NET Core version of the API app, and it will work just as it would on the PC. So in order to get to where we are right now, and I will post this code on the Canvas site, all you need to do is create a blank or an API a web project that's either blank or an API project under the .NET Core group of projects. And so when you do that, what will happen is it will automatically give you this weather forecast controller, and I've actually gutted that thing and just made a test controller, but I've kept the name the same. You can really do whatever you want. This is more about the structure of the project than it is the actual code, because it turns out that all of the code that we have been going over for the last couple of weeks will still work in the Mac version of Visual Studio. You just have to make some slight modifications. So let's talk about kind of what we want to accomplish by the end of the video. What we want to do is we want to be able to go to the internet, and we want to be able to hit our application in 2 different ways. First, we want to be able to hit a static file and actually run some HTML that will call some JavaScript that will present us the ability to build a view and build controllers and all of that will allow a user to actually use the application. And so I have right here just a hello world HTML file, and I will show you where that goes. And basically, if you take the app.js and the index.html files that were put on Canvas when we did the original PC version of the SPA conversation back in Module 5, you should be able to just take those files and copy them into the same location. And instead of seeing Hello World, you will see the same application that we've been looking at in the last several weeks of videos. So the second thing we want to do is we want to be able to go to the API controller bit of the application and actually get data over. And so this is what we're doing here. So we are going to a test controller. We are calling the test method on that controller, and lo, it is returning to us a string, and that string would be sent back to your SPA, which would call this route right here, test/test, in a $HTTP service request. So all of the same stuff applies that we were doing in the PC version, except there are slight variations, and we're going to go through the variations now. So if you choose to create a blank project, what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to create all of this kind of boilerplate stuff. So program.cs has a whole bunch of boilerplate stuff in it. This stuff is not super important. It really is just bootstrapping code that gets you to a functional web app. Same thing for startup.cs, and this is just a model, sort of really a view model class. So what I would suggest you do, if you don't want to deal with the sort of nuts and bolts of those situations, is you create a WebAPI template project, and that will give you all of this stuff with the exception of this folder, www.root, and one bit in startup.cs. So in startup.cs, this line 46 and 47 is not in the template. In the template, it is not expecting you to build an SPA. It's really intended for you to build just an API. And so APIs don't necessarily have a need to serve static files. They don't really have the concept of a front end. And so what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to pair an SPA with an API in the same project. And in order to do that, what we have to do is we have to tell Visual Studio, which will then tell the web server that we're going to use the default files, which gives you the sort of hierarchy that you would expect. So index, and then all of the sort of elements in the standard sort of website bootstrapping logic. And then we also tell it that it is okay for the project to actually serve static files. So without this bit, you will not be able to get to index.html. What will happen is you will try to go to index.html and it will tell you that the page cannot be found. And the reason it can't be found is your index.html file is stranded in the Visual Studio project. It isn't actually being served by the server. This use static files is what tells you that you can actually do that. So the kind of main concept here is that you have to import a NuGet package in order to have access to this use static files. And what I will do is I will put that in the notes on the page in Canvas, a sort of like really quick link to the NuGet package. But basically you just install that NuGet package, you copy these 2 lines of code, or you just take my project and run with it, and then that will give you access to the ability to load Hello World. So if you go back to my project, you'll notice that there is a www.root folder, and in that folder lies the index.html file. So when you create your Web API project at first, you will not have this www.root folder. You will have to manually create it. And so literally all you have to do is right click, add new folder, and make sure that it is called www.root. What www.root is kind of the root directory for serving static files in the website. So everything that you see in the sort of blank SPA project in the PC version, you'll want in here. So you could have a subdirectory, add a new folder, and you would create maybe one for ng views and one for ng scripts, or you could separate it however you'd like, as long as you have set up the routes between the HTML and the JavaScript that you're trying to load correctly. So basically this www.root serves as the root of the actual static files that you are serving with the server. The controllers are all inside of the controllers directory, and if you look here, things are very, very similar, and there are only a couple of differences. So the main thing is out of the box, you do not get async methods, which is a little bit strange, but for this purpose, you don't really need them. If you want to build a much larger application, that is something that you would want to look at. and you would use exactly the same syntax from the PC version in order to do that. This is just basically showing you that you can do really whatever you want. You can have the API serve whatever data you want. So here, instead of wrapping things in an OK HTTP message, we're just literally returning a string. You could just as easily change this return type to be something that is not just a string. You could return an action result. You could return an HTTP action result with an OK, whatever you want. This is literally could be the same code as the PC version. The main difference is that instead of using route prefix for the class, you use just route, and you also use just route for the method. And so here we see that in my browser, I have test/test. The reason it's test/test is here I had test and test. If I put API here, and I close this, and I'll launch it again. Now I will have to do API/test/test. And that will take me to the string. So this is the most rudimentary way that you could set up such a solution. And so basically what you want to do if you're stuck on a Mac and you're trying to get to where you can actually do project number 4, it is a good exercise to take the code from the PC version and try to convert that .NET code over into .NET Core code by literally copy and pasting the C#, and then trying to figure out where it breaks and just kind of massaging it around until it doesn't break anymore. If you have problems doing that, please let me know, email me. I'm happy to step in and kind of help. But this should at least get you started on the road to building an SPA with C# API on .NET Core, which allows you to run it on a Mac without Boot Camp, sort of natively on macOS. So thanks for listening, and I will be back shortly with a follow-up that allows you to do persistence using MongoDB. Thanks.